Alright, to get the best performance out of your Case IH early riser planter, we want to inspect the ground engagement components every year before each season. So first we're going to start off measuring the opening disc. Once they're worn down past 13.5 inches, it's time to replace them. It's also a good time to inspect your scrapers, firming point, your shoe, and your closing discs. You can inspect the bearings as well. Make sure everything is free. Closing disc spec is 7.5 inches or less. It's time to replace. They're 8 inches when they're new. Alright, when we want to check our firming point, there's a gauge that can be purchased over the parts counter. Set it up. On a new planter, we should be able to see the firming point in the window. On a used planter, it's going to be worn down some. You're going to have daylight like this, and once the firming point no longer shows up in the window and you have a full triangle in view, it's time to replace the firming point. Our seed bed is represented by the red line at the bottom of this screen. Remember, all ground contact points wear together. If the firming points are replaced without replacing the other wear items like opening and closing discs, our seed trench will have poor form, resulting in poor emergence. Also remember to inspect the pin on your covering disc depth adjustment. Make sure that the cotter pin is in place as well. Inspect your press wheel for any damages or cuts. If the wheel is damaged, it's time to replace. Before each season, ensure that your chain is tensioned properly. Also inspect for wear on the chain and the sprockets. Replace if necessary. Inspect your spools for wear or sloppiness. Inspect the drive chains as well as on the row units. Okay, let's talk about bin level sensors. If the sensors no longer report an empty tank, the first thing to look for is graphite buildup on the sensor. Cleans up easily with soap and water. Anytime it thinks there's seed in the tank, there's an orange light that will illuminate. So if you know the tank is empty and the light is on, it's a good time to open up the lid and get inside, get some soap water, and clean off that sensor. Another option is to unplug the sensor and unscrew it from the bottom. And as you can see here, this one's got a little bit of graphite buildup, and so we're just going to clean this sensor off and plug it back in. Alright, now we've got our sensor cleaned up, and as you can see, it just detects any kind of blockage. You can use your hand to test it. So we've got this one ready to go. We're going to put it back in. Alright, next we're going to give you a quick overview of the planters equipped with the in-cab pneumatic down pressure system. The system consists of a fill valve, dump valve, and a pressure sensor. The system monitors airbag pressure to maintain a consistent amount of downforce on the row units no matter what the ground condition. Alright, throughout the season you want to inspect the condition of the manual override poppets. If they have dust buildup, blow the dust out with compressed air right here and here. Okay, if the valve becomes sticky, drain the air in the tank, remove this air line, and add a few drops of shop air tool oil into the line. Reconnect the line, refill the system with air, and manually activate the valves to work the oil in. Alright, another thing to keep your eye on is the compressor pressure. If your pressure exceeds 100 psi, we might want to check the operation of our pressure sensor, or if the compressor just runs and runs and runs all day long, either we have a leak somewhere or else this sensor has failed and if the compressor continues to operate under this condition, it'll overheat and reduce the life. Alright, another thing we want to check pre-season is the operation of our PTO cooling fan. This cooling fan should kick on when the oil temperature reaches approximately 160 degrees. So what I like to do is fire up the vac fan on the planter, let the oil warm up. I'll use my laser temp gun and point it over here by the sensor on the oil tube, and I should expect to see that fan kick on at about 160. Alright, we want to change our oil filter on the PTO system every 100 hours and the hydraulic oil every 200 hours. Alright, next we're going to look at the pneumatic AccuRow system. For each season, it's a good idea to ensure that the air is removed from the system. Remove the inlet line, add some shop tool oil to the line, reconnect, fill the system with air, and manually activate the solenoids for each row clutch. You can take a small screwdriver and fire the plunger. You'll hear a corresponding click from each clutch as it is fired. This also will work oil into the solenoid to ensure smooth operation. Alright, another component we need to inspect throughout the season is our vac sensor. This vac sensor has a diaphragm inside that fills up with dust over time. Another thing that we want to inspect is the cap. This is a breather cap. We want to make sure it's present and not cracked. So we're going to unplug the sensor, unscrew it, tap the dust out on a soft object such as a rubber tire. It's amazing how much dust you'll get out of this sensor. Might take a little while, but eventually you get most of the dust out anyway. And this will reduce vacuum fluctuations.